Hi, welcome back to the channel. I've kind of been delaying making this video, though I think it's a super important one. I've been wanting to make it. And I guess what stopped me from doing it is I really don't want to come across as ungrateful, because I am grateful that my husband, who's a teacher, will retire with a pension. But as we get closer to retirement, and as I watch videos about pensions made by people who don't have them, I just want to share some information on why I don't think people should be super jealous if they don't have a pension, and why maybe pensions aren't the greatest tool for a lot of people for retirement, and that a lot of people have this ridiculous idea that a pension alone will take care of you in retirement, and maybe for a select group of people who lived on very low expenses. See my video comparing my budget to my grandma's budget when she was in her 50s. A pension was great at one time, but I think for people like myself, it's not necessarily the greatest way an employer could help you in your retirement. At least not a lot of pensions. The first thing to know is that a pension doesn't replace your salary. Like my husband, when he retires, well, if he retired after 30 years, his pension would replace 12% of his take-home pay. Now, after he worked 37 years, his pension would be 33% of his paycheck, actually less because his paycheck will be increasing by the time he's at 37 years, that we know what his pension would be. So not all that great. And it's meant to be for a lot of, as common government employees, not to provide for everything, right? It's the defined benefit. So you have your defined benefit, which is the pension. You get what you get and you don't pitch fit. And then there's your investment account tied to your place of employment, where you put money in, that because you're getting that sweet pension, they don't match. Whereas in the private sector, you would have a lot of times your employers matching. I looked up, like, the average match is 4.7%. There are certainly people that have a much higher match. Now, when you look at how much we've contributed, like actually our money taken out of my husband's paycheck, that is only 20% of the value of the accounts. And if we took that current, retire at 55, that current amount right now, the 4% rule, withdrawing 4% of your funds, would be $1,500 a month. Now, not enough to live on. That's why I'm not retiring, at least in America, at that amount. And my husband plans to wait till he's 62 to retire. But it's like that, approximately $1,500 a month if we withdrew at the 4% rate, which the pension is only worth about $900. So if my husband's employer, instead of having this pension, would have matched what we contributed, we would be getting another $1,500 at this current age instead of $900 something. So in our situation, it would have been better if we had that employer match instead of the pension. And I know people say, well, but the pension is guaranteed. You know, it doesn't matter how the market does. Well, that's why the 4% calls for a certain mix of bonds and equities and everything. So that drawing at 4%, you'll still do okay with drawing at that rate, even with the fluctuations. But because we did invest into that account, we would be better off financially with if we had the employer match instead of having this pension. The problem is people don't always invest into their accounts. They often don't invest into their accounts. So sure, that pension looks really sweet because you don't have to do anything. But if you are someone who can save, and you know, that's going to depend on a lot of different factors, but if you're someone who can invest, then you would be better off with just having the employer match your contributions. But that's a real personal math scenario you have to run. Another thing about the pension is that it dies either with you or with your significant other, your spouse. And if you elect the option that your spouse can inherit the pension, then that means all along you get a lower pension, which is what my husband will do, because statistically I will outlive him and it would be nice to have that pension. So again, I'm not ungrateful, but again, if we just had that money in accounts, then we could just withdraw it and benefit from, you know, the market and from those past employee contributions. Another issue with the pension is if you are a family like ours who needs to provide for an adult child that's disabled, that child doesn't inherit the pension. Whereas if you had your own money that you controlled in investment accounts, then that, whatever is remaining, you know, you can put in a trust for that disabled child. Or even just, you know, typically developing children can inherit from those investment accounts, whereas they don't inherit a pension. And the value, you know, people do the math backwards for, sure, my husband, when he retires, maybe that pension, if we do the 4% rule backwards, would be worth, I'm just throwing out a number here, $800,000. It's worth that. That's only if you live the 25 years, right? If you get, say, a pension of $2,000 and you only live a year, then a pension was only worth $24,000. So it's really hard to put a value on the pension, and I just think people who are just jealous and envious and saying we need to go back to pensions were so great, are overlooking some of these factors I just talked about. So I hope if you were a person that was feeling really envious of pensions, this has made you a little less envious, and that an employer matching your money and you being in control of your money can be a very good thing, and that pensions, I guess, would be really good, like for really low income where there just isn't any money to save. And so a pension can be really great in that situation. So that's Julie's real take on a pension, and it's not that I am grateful that we get a pension and it's all going to be fine. It's just we're not so lucky because we have a pension, not our particular ones. And so I'm sure there's some really amazing ones out there, but I'm not privy to too many of them. All right, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Do you have a pension? Do you not have a pension? Did you ever wish you had a pension? Has my video changed your mind at all? I'd really like to hear your opinion. And thanks for watching, and I will see you hopefully another video. Here's one YouTube things you'll like, and here's one I think you might like. All right, take care.